Hi guys, good morning. It is Tuesday, May 26th, and it was Memorial Day yesterday. So I hope you had some time with your family and were able to think back on in memory of those maybe in your life who have passed. I had a grandpa who fought in World War II. So Memorial Day is a good time to spend with family and memory, and I hope you were able to do so. Today is the last day of kind of the packet of stuff you got last week for me. Because of Memorial Day, we're doing a packet delivery today. So our new week is actually going to start tomorrow on Wednesday, okay? So today, we're finishing up chapter 25. Now we skipped a couple chapters from chapter 22. We're going to 25. And chapter 25 is called Hendon Hall. And if you are paying attention, Hendon Hall is where Miles Hendon is originally from. And he hasn't been back in a really long time. So I'm not going to give you a full summary of the chapters that we skipped, but basically it goes back to that thing I was talking about in last video or 2 videos ago. It was last video. And where we're really starting to see Edward working with, Edward as Tom the beggar, Edward working with the poorer classes of people, and he's really starting to build a lot of empathy. And he's starting to see the plight is a word that means like struggle, of the lower classes of people and how unfair and unjust, meaning not justice, unjust the laws are in England. And so he's going to continue to learn and grow, and when we'll find out, but eventually they may switch places back. Edward's going to carry all of this learning with him into what he does when he becomes king, or when he actually returns to his throne. So a lot of what is happening is Twain is kind of gave an explanation, because in history, the real Edward was a very empathetic person, and he really looked at the plight of the lower classes, at the struggle of the lower classes. And when we get toward the end of the text, we're going to talk about some of the changes that Edward makes in real life, in history, to help support the poorer people in England. So what's kind of cool about this chapter, Hendon Hall, is that Edward and Miles, Edward and Miles, Edward and Miles Hendon arrive in at Miles's hometown, or his family's estate. And when we are there, we meet his brother Hugh and Edith. And Edith is married to Hugh, but Edith was originally betrothed or engaged with Miles. And there's a lot of confusing interaction that we skipped over, but basically what's ironic, or what the opposite of what you would expect in this chapter, is that Miles gets there and people don't recognize him. They don't believe he is who he says he is, which if you are thinking, you're like, huh, that reminds me of another character in our play, or in our story actually too. And so Miles is now experiencing in chapter 25 something similar that Edward is experiencing, which is people don't believe that he is who he says he is. And there's a reason. And so in your homework tonight, I'm actually going to share my screen so I can get to that really quick. Share screen. Right here, you will see that you're going to actually be looking at the reaction of Hugh, his brother, and Lady Edith, the woman that he was originally engaged to be married to, who's now married to Hugh, his brother. What is their reaction to when they see him? And pay attention, very specific attention, to the words that Mark Twain chooses to use. He will use very specific describers. It might be only one sentence, but it'll hint towards something. Maybe a character will look down rather than, you're supposed to pay attention that maybe the character isn't necessarily telling the truth, right? So I want you to pay attention to their reaction, what Mark Twain says about how they react. And then I want you to, based on that description, are they telling the truth or are they fibbing? Okay, and then there's going to be some important news that Hugh is going to share with Miles. Like, there's going to be some important news that Hugh is going to tell Miles, and Miles is going to freak out. And I want you to tell me what that news is, and how does Hugh, his brother, respond when he freaks out, okay? So chapter 25, Hendon Hall. And then tomorrow, so tomorrow, Wednesday the 27th, we are going to skip ahead to chapter 28, the sacrifice. And I'm going to have to give you kind of backfill some information that's going to be important. So the last few chapters, we're going to actually have to spend a little bit of time kind of like putting in context what we missed, because we're missing a lot of the really big stuff in this book. So I tried to keep the really important chapters, but also try to give you some information on the ones we missed, and we're going to do what we can to make it make sense, okay? The end of this book is one of my favorite endings in a book, actually. I think Mark Twain did a really good job in how he wrapped everything up. So I wanted to make sure we at least got to that. So chapter 25, is that 52? I can never tell if it's flipped around. Chapter 25 for you guys. And they are at Hendon Hall, and there's going to be some hijinks that ensue. Okay, so I will not be available for questions tomorrow or today during the morning. I will be available probably around 1 o'clock. I'm actually going to be driving back to the Twin Cities, so I won't be around in the morning to answer questions. So if I don't get back to you, that's why. But yeah, enjoy chapter 25. Miss you guys. Bye. Stop share. Still getting used to it. Bye.